Howdy folks, and welcome to another Taste of Gameplay video, this time for the German Tier 4 Tech Tree Battleship, the Moltke. As always, these videos are designed to give you a sample of the gameplay of the ship, not to be an exhaustive analysis. I recommend the Wargaming Wiki or other content creators. So, the Moltke is a quintessential German battleship. I would say even more extreme than some of the ones you find at higher tiers. I don't know that it's a particularly great ship. I'm going to have an okay game, do some good damage. Unfortunately, it will eventually be a loss, and I'm not even going to get any kills, but I have some pretty good battle impact, and I almost pull it out at the end. I think I make a mistake near the end. But anyway, playing these ships is an interesting experience at a tier like Tier 4. So the first thing you notice is the range on everything is really short. The concealment is really good. I think it's 10.5, but the range on the main guns is only 13.5. So you really do just have to brawl. Like, you have to get in there and brawl. I try to make every video have some kind of like theme or lesson or point, and the theme here is definitely going to be that friends don't let friends spec into secondaries. Because I spec'd this into secondaries, not being super sure how I should play it. I never played this ship before, I don't believe. And you'll see at the end, this is a really instructive lesson about World of Warships, which is that secondaries are just never as good as you think they are. Of course, there's exceptions to that. You've got ships like the Schlieffen at Tier 10, where the secondaries really are amazing. But in general, they tend to let you down, and this ship is a great example. I'm going to have my secondaries firing pretty much all game. I'm trying to maneuver myself into position on different ships to get them firing as much as possible. And at the end of the game, I'm only going to have a total of 20k damage from secondaries the whole game. And I think that comes down to a couple things. One is, so the Moltke is basically bristling with secondaries. I think there's 16 guns. But the thing about that is two problems. One is, especially at these lower tiers, the secondaries just don't fire that often. So it's got two sets of secondaries. It's got a small set of these really puny 88 millimeter guns, and they fire every 3.6 seconds. But then the majority of them, the 12, this bot, by the way, hero bot, saving me from that Congo. But the main secondaries, there's 12 secondaries. I forget their caliber. They're not that great, but they're better than 88. But they only fire every 7.7 seconds. And then you get the second problem, which is the dispersion on secondaries is almost always super terrible. And that gets a little better at the higher tiers. I mean, so there's some ships where secondaries can be worth it. I mentioned the Schlieffen, you've got like the Los Andes, Ipiranga line. There's some ships with some new things like the manual secondaries on the German cruisers. So, that's all well and good. But for your average ship, even your average ship with quote unquote good secondaries, it just often winds up really not being worth it. I mean, first of all, you've got the problem of needing to be really close to things, which in the modern game is often death. But then also, they just don't work that well, just as a general rule across the board. Again, there are exceptions, but they just don't work that well. So then with the Moltke, if the secondaries are not going to rescue you, you're down to the main guns. And the guns are all right. I mean, you get a good number of them. The arcs are kind of odd. But the problem is, I think they're only 283s or something like that. I mean, they're not a very high caliber. So, you're counting on volume of fire. And so this Omaha, by the way, is AFK, I think, which is why I'm just letting the secondaries chew him up. So that's the interesting thing. I'm going to end up with only 20k damage on my secondaries, but I'm going to spend a good bit of the game just firing on an absolutely AFK Omaha from like 3.5 kilometers. I mean, they just don't do that much damage. Anyway, This game was winnable. I think I made some mistakes. I'm out of position. You know, we're going to win this flank, but then I'm not going to be able to help out my team. This is a big mistake. I turned absolutely broadside to that Orion. Wish I had that one back. Still going to beat this Orion, but I'm going to end up at such low hit points that that's going to be a real problem. And I'm going to end up with 2 enemies versus me and almost no hit points left. But anyway, yeah, you can see the secondaries. I mean, you know, I'm getting hits every now and then, but I'm not penning. I'm just not getting that many hits. Anyway, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. 20k damage at the end. 50 plus K damage from the main guns. Another solid hit. The Moltke seems to have pretty good armor. You know, by tier 4 standards. It's got this icebreaker. But even with that, if you're facing battleship caliber guns, it's just really tough at these tiers because there's still huge chunks of the ship that they can aim at the upper deck on all tier 4 battleships, but in particular the Moltke is just not all that well armored, and you're still just going to take a lot of damage. There's really just not that like super tanky archetype at this tier, which is a problem if you're trying to spec into secondaries because you're going to have to be really close to people. And because we're losing, I have to chase this guy and he gets to kite. That's Omaha. My team is going to do a good job of farming a lot of damage on him, which is great. But yeah, this is a challenge. I should have moved over to HE. I often fire way too much AP. I don't know why I do that. It's a mistake. Not that I'm not, I mean, that was a pretty solid hit, right? Even into an angled target. The HE on the Moltke is not particularly amazing. It only has a 20% fire chance, and I think it's like 4,200 alpha. So that's one of the reasons I was stubbornly sticking with the AP. Yeah, remember, Omaha's torps, folks. So yeah, Hero Omaha took him out, but now I'm stuck with Mutsuki and a Kavur. There's just not much I can do. And the problem is I can't just kite because then they can just run away. The Mutsuki can run away and win the game. So I have to stay close to them because I'm never going to catch the Mutsuki if he decides to run away. I don't know that he knows that, but I have to assume he does. You never really want to assume that your opponents are going to mess things up. Anyway, I did a couple pretty good hits to him there, but then he smokes up. And now I'm really in trouble. There's just not a lot I can do. I mean, I have to act predictably because we're losing. I mean, I can't just sit here in this cap circle, much as I might want to. I have to kind of hope that they mess up. And they almost do. They almost do. But then the Mutsuki is smart enough to hit me with a full rack of torps. He's going to launch 2 sets that I'm going to dodge. I'm going to get a couple good hits on this Corvette. But yeah. This proves the classic trope, which is true about World of Warships, that destroyers are just really powerful at the end of games. In a destroyer, this is true at every tier, but especially low tiers, the longer you survive, the more you're worth to your team. Destroyers are kind of like the bishops. Bishops in chess get more valuable as the game goes on. Knights get less valuable and bishops get more valuable in general. And so destroyers are like the bishops of chess. They get more valuable as the game goes on. I'm going to actually spot the Mutsuki, which is a bit of a mistake on his part. There's no reason for him to get spotted by me. He can easily torp me out, you know, from a distance, but he's gonna go for the, you know, I mean, that's a lot of damage. I almost take him out, but yeah, nope. This one ends up as a loss. But yeah, that's the Moltke. Fun ship, good ship. I just think if I had to do it again, I would not spec into secondaries. I would just spec into accuracy on the main guns. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video, the Tier 4 Moltke. See you guys in the next one.